Excellent.
Well, I was here by myself, but I just pretended that it was another Thursday,
That's good.
and I made a nice meal.
Nice.
And uh, if anybody's ever interested, I'm so glad that I found it. I bought a frozen butterball boneless turkey breast.
Ooh.
Ooh.
So it was smaller than a football. It was anyhow. It took less than 2 hours to cook. It was pure white meat. It was delicious and moist, and it lasted. I got at least 3 good meals out of it.
That sounds amazing.
And yeah, rather than you cook the whole turkey and then you got to carve it and get rid of the bones and blah blah blah. This was really good. I was very surprised.
Hey,
Yeah, because of the virus, I just decided to stay put.
that's smart. That is very
Yeah.
smart. The cases spiked today in Massachusetts. They're at 5,000 because of all the people who went somewhere for Thanksgiving.
Oh gosh, I know Vermont is having more than it has had. I guess every place is having more.
That's
But
smart.
Anyway,
So, all right, we can get started. We are going to start with our warm up. So we're going to start with warming up our wrists. So you can put your hands straight in front of you, make a fist, and then imagine you're just painting a circle on a canvas. I want you to go 5 times in one direction, and then you can go ahead and switch and go 5 times in the other direction. So just the wrists are moving, arms are out straight, and it's like you're drawing a circle on a canvas.
mm-hmm.
Nice. All right, so once you've done 5 times in each direction, then we're going to move on to the shoulders. So I want you to think about the same circular motion and making that with just the shoulders. So you're going to go backwards for 5. And remember today that you are in control of these movements and you know what's going on in your body. So if something causes pain or feels uncomfortable, just dial it down. With these circles, you can make smaller ones, smaller motions. But if everything feels good, I really want you to try to increase that range of motion. And then we're going to go forwards for 5.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
My shoulders click a lot.
Oh, that's okay. Usually that's just air, which is good. As long as it doesn't hurt. I know it sounds terrible, but it's totally okay. All right, then we're going to let our arms hang heavy by our sides. Our feet are a little bit more than hip width apart, and we're just going to rotate to the right and to the left. So our torso is rotating and our head can follow that. So nice and slow. And then you can start to bring that back to the center. Very slowly bringing it back to a neutral position until you stop again. And then we can go to the hips. So I want you to think about making circles with the hips. Again, if everything feels good, think about making big circles. If you're having pain anywhere, just dial those circles down a little bit to what zone is comfortable for you. And we're going to go around 5 times. And then we're going to switch directions for 5 times. Perfect. Once you're done with that, if you have a wall, you can use it, or a chair, just to help with balance, because our focus here is just to warm up, not the balance. So you can bring your feet together and your knees together, and then I want you to make circles with those knees. And you're going 5 in one direction and 5 in the other direction. Now, again, if you feel any pain, you can make those circles much smaller. And once you've done 5 and 5, we're going to go to the ankles. So I want you to pick one leg up. Let your foot hang and gravity take it so your big toe is pointing towards the ground. And that's where the wall comes in handy. I don't have to think about my balance here. And I just imagine that I'm drawing a circle with my big toe on the ground. So I'm going to draw 5 circles in this direction. And then switch to draw 5 circles in the other direction. And our goal today is just warming up all the joints, checking in with our body, making sure everything knows that we're going to start activating it. And some days when I do this, I feel weird pain. Sometimes my shin hurts, my calf hurts, my neck is tight. Those are things to just notice about your body. There's no need to judge them, but they are good to notice. And so you want to switch and do that on the other leg. So you're going to do 5 in one direction and 5 in the other. And once that is done, our warm-up will be done. So just let me know when you're finished with those.
I was moving a cord and I didn't hear what the last one was.
Sure. So we're picking up one foot and then we're letting our foot hang heavy so gravity takes it and our big toe is pointing towards the ground.
Okay.
And then we're just going to draw a circle with that big toe.
Okay, I did that. Okay.
Okay, perfect. All right, so today we're going to get a little bit of a workout in at the beginning, and then we can work on some slower stuff at the end. So let me know how you're both feeling today as we go through this. We can always modify. The first thing we're going to do, I'm going to show you first, and then we're all going to do it together. So it's called a step over. And I want you to use an imaginary block, but I'm going to show you what it looks like if something was there. So if I had like a yoga block or something, I could put it there, but we're going to use an imaginary one for today. I'm just going to show you for right now. So I'm going to square myself up to this thing that I need to step over because that's going to make it easier. And then I want you to think about shifting your weight with your belly button as the guide. So imagine my belly button is shifting over my left foot here. I'm going to pick this right foot up and make sure I clear enough space to get over that block, and that's a step over. So we are going to do 6 of these step overs on each side. So we can do them together. If you have a hardwood floor, you can use a line to square yourself up, or you can just use your imagination to imagine there's an item there. And I want you to think about really stepping over it and then finding your balance on the other side and stepping back. And so that's 1. We're going to do 6 of these total. Nice. Joe, that looks great. I like your posture, and it's good that your arms are nice and relaxed.
Oop, I forgot that.
I can't see you, but yes, you want to have your arms nice and relaxed, your body as relaxed as it can be, and you're really just focused on the step over. So the goal here is we're going to get the heart rate moving, but we want to think about balance and control as we step over this object. Nice. So
And what is this for?
So this is for actually stepping over things. So especially as we get older, if we get injured or have any vestibular issues, stepping over something can get quite tricky. So I've had injuries before where this feels really easy and then suddenly it's not anymore. But basically the goal is to show you that if you get closer to the object that you need to step over, then it's easier to step over it. Now that sounds obvious, but it isn't always quite as obvious as you might think. So let's say there's an object in your path or something in your way. One way you can think about stepping over it is getting up nice and close to it and then very controlled stepping over it. The other thing that it's doing is it's warming up our hips because we're using our hip joint to make this motion over it. So it's helping strengthen and warm up our hips as well.
Yeah, I got better. The first time when I went over, I stopped. So now I had to, and then brought the second one over. But then
Yes.
I got to the point where I could do it. Yeah.
Easier. Yes,
Yeah.
and so part of that too is shifting your weight. So you're shifting your weight from one foot, and then your body has to feel that new point of support and be ready to shift it again. So the more you do it, the easier and more efficient that it gets. So that's perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do some squats. So there's a couple ways to do these. If you have a chair handy, you can definitely use that. You don't need one. You can also use an imaginary chair. So I'm going to show you first, and then we can do it together. And if you guys want to grab chairs, you can, but I'll show you first. So when we think about the squat motion, again, we're thinking about a very fundamental human movement and a pattern that we want to have. How do we use this in everyday life? The most obvious way is getting up and down from a chair. But you can use it for all kinds of things. You can use it to pick something up off the ground. You can use it to pick something heavy up. You can use it to pick a child up. You can use it to get lower and look at something. You can use it when you're gardening to get closer to the ground so you can get on the ground. And one way we don't think about is you can actually use it to lower your center of gravity. If you were balancing on something, let's say, and you want to get closer to the ground in case you need to jump off or you're going to fall off. So we're just going to focus on the basic squat pattern. And what that looks like is I'm standing with my feet a little bit more than hip width apart. And what I'm imagining is that there's a chair behind me. And I want to think about shifting my weight back so I sit down in that chair. And, you know, some people can do the full Asian squat, which is really low like that. We don't have to do that today because you can fall backwards if the squat isn't familiar. But I want you to think about getting down about chair height and really using these muscles in the front of your legs to get down and then stand back up. So two things I'm going to show you before we start. When people are new to the squat, sometimes they push through their knees. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So right now, if I'm pushing through my knees are driving to the ground. That puts a lot of unnecessary stress and strain on my knees and is not very good for me, especially if I have weight on my body. I'm carrying something. So we don't want you to be pushing through the knees like that. Instead, I want you to be thinking about sitting your butt in a chair, and you can keep your hands out in front of you for balance, because as you sit back, you're going to feel like you're going to go back. So you can put your hands out in front, and you just want to use control with those muscles to sit in that chair and stand back up. If you're worried about balance or anything, you can do this into an actual chair, and as soon as your bottom touches that chair, stand back up. Perfect. We're going to do 6 to 8 of them. So depending on how you're feeling today, I want you to do 6, or if you're feeling really good, you can go ahead and do 8. Take your time with these. Again, you're welcome to use a chair. And if you do that, just make sure you're not sitting on the actual chair, but you're just using it as a guide. As soon as your bottom touches, you're standing back up. Nice. So this is going to strengthen our legs, which is one of our goals today. It's going to help us shift our center of gravity. Nice. Perfect. That looks good. How did that feel?
Good.
Are you starting to feel warmed up?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that was work.
That one is work, yes. So the more we can do that one in particular, and the easier we can make that, the easier just overall things in life are going to be. Because if you think about it, you get down and up from a chair maybe 30 times in a day, 10 times in a day. So if you can do this 10 times with perfect ease, no problem, no sweat, eventually then just everyday life becomes easier. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is marching in place. So this is going to get our heart warmed up a little bit, and we're going to start to feel hot, but I want you to take your time with this. I don't want you to get too tired, but I'll show you first, and then I'm going to start a timer on my phone. So marching in place is really what it sounds like, but I have my feet about hip width apart. You can have them a little closer, a little further, but basically I'm bringing one leg up so my knee is about parallel to my hip. So if I drew a line straight out from my hip, I want my knee to try and go at least that high, and I'm just marching. What I really want you to think about here and be mindful of here is shifting that center of gravity. So taking your time to put that foot down, feel stable, feel your belly button shift over that foot, and then pick the other foot up again. And so we're gonna go for 30 seconds. So go as fast or slow as you'd like. Do you have any questions before we start?
Nope.
Okay.
Go faster or slower, which
That's up to you. I want you to try to pace yourself so that 30 seconds is very doable. I would suggest going about a medium speed, not too slow, but not too fast, so that you can really focus on that shifting of your body weight. So think about, okay, I want to feel my weight shift, lift that foot up, put it back down, feel my weight shift, lift that foot up and put it back down. So this is going to put you at a slower to medium speed to really feel that.
Okay.
All right, 3, 2, 1, and we're going to go ahead and go. Nice. Perfect. And as you get used to it, you can speed up a little bit if you'd like. You're halfway there, so you're at 15 seconds left. You can feel free to go faster. Nice. And you have 3, 2, 1, and time. Perfect. All right, we're gonna do that for another 15 seconds. And this time I want you to think more about just getting your heart rate up. So your legs are gonna be a little bit closer together in this exercise, and you're just gonna lift them up and put them back down for 15 seconds to get the heart rate going. So 3, 2, 1, and go. And you can use the arms like you're actually marching in place. Nice. And you have 2, 1, and time. Perfect. How is everyone feeling?
good.
Good. All right, cool.
I'm
So
getting a little breathless.
Perfect. Feel free to grab some water if you'd like.
Okay, I might do that.
Perfect. Let me know when you're both back from that. The next exercise we're going to do is a little bit of a recovery exercise, so you won't be moving too quick.
Back.
Nice work, both of you. Joe, what did you do for Thanksgiving?
I went to, after much deliberation, I went to see my daughter, husband, and grandchildren. And
Nice.
I wore my mask a lot of the time. And
Good.
yeah, even though, but the kids go to school 2 days a week, but they hadn't done it the week before. So, yeah.
That's good. Good.
Oh,
Well, I'm glad that worked out. I know it was we all had to make an educated decision what was comfortable for us. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I think we lost Joe. Let's see. Where did she go? She froze. Oops, she exited. Maybe she'll come right back. So Edie, the next thing that we're going to work on is posture. And we're going to look at a very, very ideal posture, which is going to feel strange and uncomfortable. And then once we get that quote unquote ideal posture, we're going to do some exercises and some breathing with that ideal posture. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to incorporate that into your life. Because if you think about it, the posture that we have now, whatever it may be, is something that we've accumulated over a long period of time. So you think about how old you are and your body is changing every single day. At some point, you've gotten into rhythms here and there and everywhere else, and you just have this posture. So to change that or to help make it better is also going to take a really, really long time. So these exercises that we're going to do next are really designed to be something that you can practice every single day, and then eventually you're going to settle on a posture that makes sense for you and your body, because we don't want you walking around like a rigid tin man all the time. But there are things that we can all improve to feel better and move better in our environment. So we lost Joe. That's okay. We'll do the posture if she comes back. So
Okay. I was not aware that I was hunching over and, and people would say to me, stand up straight. And so when I walk the dog, we get to the top of the driveway, I stand up as tall as I can and as straight as I can, and just to remind myself of
what that means, right? So
Yeah.
I've heard that too, and I did what you did. And what I realized recently in a certification I was taking is that there's a little bit more to the puzzle than just standing up tall. And once you put all of those pieces together, it's kind of a game changer in terms of improving your posture. So I've been working on that as well. And now that like more of the pieces make sense, which I'm hoping to teach all of you, it's much easier for me to actually find that length and feel really strong in my posture. Before, I think I was just standing tall, but then I would go right back to where I was.
uh-huh.
So the first piece of this exercise is, do you have a wall available to you, a blank
Yeah.
wall?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you're gonna wanna get your butt on that wall with your feet a little bit out in front of you and bent.
Okay, I'm gonna move a chair here out of the way.
Okay, sure.
Okay, yep. Got my
Okay.
wall.
So you wanna lean against that wall. Your feet are a little bit in front of you and you're really leaning back against this wall. So the bottom of my butt all the way to the top of my shoulders ideally is on that wall. Are you able to put your head on the wall?
I feel like I'm leaning back if I do.
Okay, perfect. So that might be a little bit too strong of a movement right now. Do you happen to have a towel like this handy?
I have a pillow I can use.
Okay, perfect. I don't want it to have too much width to it, but just a little bit.
Okay.
And while you're grabbing that, I'm going to email Jo and make sure that she can come back on.
Okay.
I don't even know what her, oh, she's back. Hi, Jo. Hi, Jo.
Hi, sorry, my phone. Yeah.
No worries. We're glad to have you back. So we're, I was just talking to Edie. We're going to work on some posture. So we're going to go through a series of posture exercises to look at a very ideal posture. And then we're going to break that down and figure out some exercises that we can all do every day to continue to enhance our posture. So if you have a hand towel like this, it could be really helpful, depending whether or not you can easily relax your whole body on the wall with your head back. If it's really hard to get your head back there, I suggest a nice hand towel. Edie just went to get something.
Okay, I'm getting mine.
Okay, perfect. So I want you to get on that wall. Your feet are a little bit in front of you. Your butt's on the wall, your back's on the wall. Don't worry about your head for right now. You can just hold your object in your hand. The first part of what we want to think about today is our hips. So a lot of us in our hips, we tilt them downwards like this, and we want to be able to tilt them upwards like this. So I like to imagine I have a tail and I'm tucking it under, or I'm pulling my hips or my pelvis up towards my face. That's the first thing I want you to start with when you're against the wall is your hips are typically tilted down. Try and tilt them up a little bit. Next, I want you to think about this area opposite your solar plexus, which is an area where you would do the Heimlich maneuver on someone. You can even put your hand there on yourself, and I want you to think about whatever is opposite to that, so right straight behind you, and trying to flatten it against the wall. So it's going to cause you to engage your abs, and you're going to really try and strain to flatten it against the wall. So we have our hips tilted up, that area opposite our solar plexus flattened against the wall. Here's where you can take your object and you can put it behind your head so your head can rest comfortably. And then you can check in with yourself again. Check in with those hips. Make sure they're pointed up towards your face. Opposite the solar plexus is flat on the wall. And then I want you to take your hands and I want you to open them towards the room so that the pit of your elbow opens towards the room and it brings your shoulders back. And I want you to think about bringing your shoulders back so they touch flat on the wall. This is a very hard posture to hold and just look straight ahead. And I want you to take 3 breaths here and just be mindful of your breath. Does it feel restricted? Does it feel choppy? Does it feel smooth? In through the nose and out through the mouth. Just take 3 breaths. When you're done with those 3 breaths, you can go ahead and take your object from behind your head and come off the wall. So when I do that, my breath feels very restricted, and that means that there is something about that posture that's not something I'm doing every day, and it's very uncomfortable. So one exercise that you can do every day is position yourself up on that wall, tilt your hips towards your face, opposite your solar plexus flat, open those shoulders to the room, and just do 3 breaths, and you'll find that that gets easier and easier each day. The next part of the posture that I want to think about is our feet. So if you have a wooden floor, you can use the lines on the floor. If you don't, if you have a pattern in your rug or any kind of a line on the floor you can use, that's perfect. If not, do the best you can to square up some kind of imaginary line for your foot. I want you to think about this outside bone of your ankle being on the line first, and then your pinky toe, the outside of your pinky toe being on the line next. Once you have one foot in that orientation, I want you to take the other foot and mirror it. So your foot will be about hip width apart and mirrored where that outside ankle bone is in line with that pinky toe. Now it may feel like you're pigeon-toed and feel very, very unnatural, which is normal because a lot of us don't stand like this. But this is actually the ideal foot placement. The next thing I want you to do is move your way up. So have a soft little bend in your knees. Move your way up to the hips, and I want you to think about, again, tucking that tail or bringing your hips up towards your face like a dish. And then think about that area opposite your solar plexus, bringing it flat against this imaginary wall. Taking your hands and rotating them out so that pit of your armpit is now facing the room. And then bringing your head back as much as you can and just finding your breath. Once you're here, I want you to think.
The pit of your what?
The pit of your elbow. I hate this word, but it's the only word we know for it. This part of your elbow, the pit of it.
The bending?
Yeah, the open part where it.
Yeah, okay.
I want you to think about rotating that out to the room. So a lot of us walk like with our fists in front of us like we're primates, but we want to think about opening that. Yes. And so once you find this posture, you're going to feel like, oh my God, everything is so tight and this feels so weird. So I want you to think about, what am I straining that doesn't need to be strained? So I can start to relax things, but still sort of hold on to this posture. The next thing I want you to do is think about your shifting of your weight. So we're going to use our belly button as the guide. But I want you to think about shifting your weight, using your belly button as the guide in this posture over your left foot. And then when you go ahead and pick up your right leg, I want you to think about that motion coming from your hip. So engaging your hip to lift up that leg and put it back down. And I want you to just do 5 of those. And I'm going to talk about why we're doing this. So as humans, a lot of us walk with our knees and we don't use gravity to our advantage, and we're constantly always shoving our feet down on the ground. But if you think of it from a biomechanical perspective, and you can switch to the other side, your knees are a joint, your hips are a joint, your ankles are a joint. So your knees are not a very strong joint. If you look at weightlifters, when they're squatting weight, they have to wear these big knee pads because they're going to blow out their knees. But when they do weights that come from their hip joint, they can actually lift quite a bit because your hip joint is really, really strong. So one thing that we're doing a lot when we move around in life is we're using our knees, picking it up and shoving our foot back down on the ground. But really, our body is designed for us to be able to use our hips and engage that hip muscle like you're doing and that joint to pick our foot up and put it back down. And what that's going to do is it's going to take a lot of strain off your body. So if you have lower back problems or knee problems, it might be because how you're walking. So once you've done 3 to 5 of those on each side, let me know. So again, it's not picking up that knee, but it's really thinking, can I engage my hip and get it up? And it might feel weird and it might feel sore, and that's okay because it's something we haven't used in so long. We're almost getting the rust off of it. But once you've done a few, I want you to think about now just walking forward like that. You're going to feel like a tin man. You have this ideal posture and you're engaging that hip to lift up the foot and putting it back down with very little bend in your knee. Nice. So the next thing I want to talk about with that, and we'll go over this again next time because it's a lot, is that we can use gravity to our advantage here. So when I get into that ideal posture and then I engage I shift my center of gravity and I lift my foot up with my hip, I'm squeezing this back muscle, my glute muscle and my hamstring muscle. And if I were to release it, my leg will naturally come forward because gravity will take it forward. So one thing we can think about for this next little part of the exercise is lifting up with that hip, squeezing these 2 muscles to bring our leg back, and then letting it relax so the leg naturally comes forward. So gravity is doing the work instead of your body, and then putting it down. So a little bit tricky, but do the best you can. You're thinking about shifting that weight, engaging the hip, and then letting the muscles all relax so the leg comes through and putting it back down. Nice. It's definitely very awkward and something to get used to. So that's a good place to start. Of course, nobody's going to walk around like this all day, but as we get into this more, I can show you some ways that you can incorporate some of these things just for walking around life a little bit easier. But before we get too far into that, because some of these joints are going to have rust on them. When I first learned this a couple of weeks ago, my hips were so sore. So I want you to practice at home if you can every day, getting nice and squared up on that wall, finding that posture from your hip opposite your solar plexus, opening those arms to the room and getting your head as far back as you can and just taking 3 breaths. And then as you're walking, whether you're walking your dog or walking around at home, occasionally think about, can I engage my hip instead of bending from my knee to walk forward? And again, that's not the full piece of the puzzle, so we don't want you walking like Frankenstein all the time, but it is something to get used to try and engage those hips to help us advance forward. Just play with that maybe once a day if you think of it, how to really engage that movement. And then we will follow up with both of these things when we get back. But basically, just so you can understand, we're going to then shift where the weight goes on the feet. And so we're going to do some exercises where we turn our feet into springs again. And then we're going to be able to incorporate all of that into a more natural walk that uses the
Okay.
bigger joint. Perfect. Thank you, ladies, both so much for coming.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is
Bye,
recorded.
Jennifer.
Bye. This is recorded, so I'll send it to you if you need any notes on it, but I'll hopefully see you next Thursday.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.